All right, I'll call the meeting to order.
Okay, the meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Alexander.
Here.
Trustee Holm.
Here.
Trustee Nugent. Here. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley.
Here.
Trustee Wisniewski.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, citizen participation per Village Resolution 2017-01. Anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board. Whether on the agenda or not, the village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or if specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. And I know you all are here for a very specific agenda item, so, but if there's any comments, John? No? Okay. Going once, going twice. We'll close citizen participation. Move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second will approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately.
I'd move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion?
That last item,
Yes.
could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, that's, we have a ground lease with T-Mobile at the same location as the Verizon lease that we have by the water tank on 120. So they are leasing that space. Their term for their agreement we had with them runs through 2027, so they just want to reopen that for negotiations. For the Verizon lease, we have utilized the services of Boardman Clark, which has helped us tremendously because they're very well versed in cell tower leases and going rates and things like that.
I kind of figured that's what it was, but the other question I had is that we did approve that other tower placement for the Walworth County communications array that they were going to put up. But that's just solely just a communication for emergency for the sheriff and fire and whatever. That has nothing to do with these cell phone companies aren't going to be putting stuff on there, are they?
They do have the ability to, it's not the county's intent. The agreement we have with the county that we have would require them to share revenue with the village if that were to transpire.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 1 under miscellaneous business, consider approval of special event and temporary Class B permits for ET Chamber scavenger games. 3 dates, June 15th, August 17th, and October 19th, from noon to 6 p.m., contingent upon receipt of fees.
I'll make a motion to approve, what? Oh, Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the special event and temporary Class B permits for East Troy Chamber scavenger games on June 15th, August 17th, October 19th, from noon to 6, contingent upon receipt of fees.
I'll second it.
All right, any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, consider recommendation from Park and Rec Board to approve prairie flower plantings in village-owned property in the Lake Bluff subdivision green space. And if you have questions, our residents who have proposed that are here to speak to that.
So does everybody understand what's going on here? That these folks came to the Park and Rec meeting and proposed planting wildflowers in the nature preserve area that was designated by Belinsky just north of Lake Bluff. And they have, as you see, the plans there are, if you saw the actual sketched out plan, they're planning on planting specific varieties of wildflowers and plants in those areas, basically around the walking paths that are there. Ms. Holtz, if you want to say something.
I noticed that is really dark.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So if there's any questions, yeah. It would take like 5 to 7 years to fully establish. So it's a work in process. And some of it is by trial and error. We would cast seeds spring, summer, fall, and winter. Probably not in summer, but to see what, how that method works. And then we would also be digging 2 to 3 plots per year. Estimate like 12 by 10 feet each plot, and that would be to actually put plants into those plots, some of the bigger species, and cast some seeds in the plots also. So, yeah, so they estimate 5 to 7 years though to fully establish a prairie. So, yep, they have a little task force together to help. So, yeah. So we're hoping it passes. It'll be very beneficial for the Belinsky subdivision. It'll be a beautiful place to walk, very educational for children to try to get them interested in the environment. Prairie plants also eat up pesticides and fertilizers and things so that they don't run into Lake Beulah. So the fact that it's above Lake Beulah makes it a really good place to put a prairie. So, and provides a super habitat for birds and pollinators that are really running out of places to live. So, yeah.
And I would just like to confirm that an annual mowing isn't going to be a problem for this, right? Because I would still want to mow that area once a year to keep brush down.
Exactly, like in late fall would be ideal. Yeah, so trees don't grow up.
I think you were
Yeah.
talking spring too, weren't you, Jason?
Well, at least once a year. I would just to keep brush down is the only
Yeah,
reason.
trees and then the path would continue to be cut was my understanding?
Yes, we would continue to maintain the paths as they are today.
Yeah. That's
And then I
wonderful.
would just remind the village board as well that that area is deemed or set aside for future parks, and depending on, we don't really know what that is yet, but that was the intent for that land.
And we don't need to do burning of this prairie like we do the others?
It would be beneficial. In late fall or early spring, it would be beneficial, but it's not an absolute need. Yeah.
From a cost standpoint, it's cheaper to mow it than it is to burn it.
Well, thank you for putting, this proposal together and, taking an interest in helping us beautify
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I think it's anything that we can do for our environment and the warming of the planet is really important at this point. And it would be good for East Troy to just kind of also lead the way. There's other communities too that are putting in prairies too. So I think it's a super good thing to do. So, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the prairie, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to approve the prairie flower plantings on village-owned property in the Lake Bluff subdivision green space area.
I'll second that.
All right, any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again so much for coming out to talk to us and for doing this project. We're looking forward to it. All right, sorry, I lost my place. Item 3, consider recommendation from the Plan Commission to approve the 4-lot certified survey map for commercial uses located at the northwest corner of State Highway 20 and County ES, RA 514-000001, Gooden ES LLC and ACG Development Number 4 LLC, Jason Heinonen, agent, application 2024-08, based on the 4 general and 18 specific conditions listed in the staff report dated May 11th, 2024. I think I just read the memo.
I'll move to approve the 4-lot certified survey map for the commercial uses located at the northwest corner, State Highway 20 and County Highway ES RAS 1140001.
I'll second that.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, consider three-party design and engineering services contract with WISDOT and Kapur and Associates for the Highway 120 multi-use path project.
So again, this agreement before you is to design Phase 2 of the multi-use trail. And if you remember, we talked about it at the last meeting, and the DOT had to take a look at it. They took a look at it, made some minor revisions, and approved it. So it's before you now for approval.
I like the idea in here that, excuse me, there's going to be some plan reviews as this is going to move along at a 30%, 60% in the final, so that things are looked at prior to getting the finished product. I think it shows some forethought.
It's your night, Mary.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Bunch of them. Go, Mary, go.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Wisconsin DOT and Kapur and Associates for the Highway 120 multi-use path project and considering the three-party design and engineering service.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 1 under ordinances and resolution, 2024-09, amending sections 52-19, 52-24, 52-25, 52-26, and 52-27 of the municipal code pertaining to special assessments and charges. So we have the memo here, and this was based on our last, or a couple of meetings ago, discussion memo here from Tim of the proposed changes, and if we have discussion, we don't have to approve this evening. We can talk about it and have it brought back, any other changes we want to have. So this is the board's time to discuss.
Well, the only question I had was in the interest rate and special assessment payment plan section, G, as Chris gets to that section. On item 2, I'm sorry, on item 2 and 3, it says the special assessment shall be paid in 5 annual installments. Should that be a shall or should that be a may? It seems like you're forcing people into a payment plan.
You're questioning whether somebody can pay all at one time?
Yeah, it's not on. Your mic isn't on, by the way.
Yeah, I think we could clarify. I think the line's not right. I'll get the wrong one.
It's not working?
There we go.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll channel my best Tim here. I think the idea was that, we won't review it. But yeah, I think the idea was that he was contemplating this section was just going to be for people who wanted to defer it over a period of time. But I think we certainly could add language clarifying that that's an option, that people can still always pay it up front. It wouldn't hurt.
Because I certainly get the impression, people would think, oh, I have to pay this over 5 years.
So maybe if not paid in full, then it would be over that schedule.
Because it used to go out to 10 years on bigger assessments.
Well, that's what section 2 here is for 400 to 1,500 is over 5, and then if you're 1,500 to 10, you're over 10, you're 10 years, and then if you're 10 or more, it's over 20.
All right.
And it looked like the interest rate was 1.5% plus
What the villages,
the villages
Yeah.
the
bond.
villages debt is.
I guess what I wanted to be more specific on here is whenever we're doing this, we're usually taking out debt for the project. So I would just think it should be above the bond rate for that project as opposed to trying to look at some sort of average across the whole, like, village landscape.
Yeah, and I think I did talk to Tim a little bit about that. I think that he recognized that typically it's going to be a borrowing, but he thought just in case there was one that you guys were paying for out of funds, you'd have something to reference back to.
Right, because that line right before actually says that it'll be 1.5% greater than the village's rate of interest on any bonds issued to finance the project.
Okay.
So, yeah, it covers that. It's just using that only in the event that we don't take out debt.
I have one question I'd like to ask now before we vote on this or go with this. Because I've had some citizens ask me, what about the money that I've paid already? People that have paid already for their improvements for the last 10, 12 years or whatever. They said, we're out of luck?
This is a policy change.
I understand. What I'm doing is reiterating so that if they're out there listening, they can hear the answer.
I understand, and I understand if I was one of those people, I might feel the same way. But that should not preclude us from correcting what is, in my view, a bad policy. And I think that's, every time we've brought this up, we get into these other people, so then everybody else has to now pay, and I don't agree with that. But that's my personal opinion.
I may agree with you on this, Matt. It's just, now, at this day and age, right now, where we're at with the village and with our tax base and everything that we have going for us, and with, the extraordinary management that has been going on, we're able to afford a lot of this now. But 30, 40 years ago, we weren't in such a good shape, and that's one reason why I think a lot of these assessments were done.
I would also want to clarify, and I'm trying to find this here. I mean, the deferred piece is still the same. So I guess maybe, do we need to, Chris, we might want to tweak some of the language here on deferred, as Jason was suggesting, but do we need to tweak any of the language for anybody who's under a current plan? I don't want this to suddenly force them into some other structure so that it's grandfathered in.
Yeah, I thought that was addressed in here, although I can't find it offhand as we're looking for it, so it wouldn't be a bad idea. If we're going to make some changes anyhow, it's a good idea to clarify that it's prospective only.
Last time we had talked about this, trustee Renucci had asked how this was going to affect the School Street project financially. And I do have those numbers here, round numbers. So the School Street project is roughly a $600,000 project. And the total assessments, as Tim presented, was 106, and then 44 of that was for utilities, which we would still assess for under under the revised ordinances that you're looking at. So that leaves you roughly 62,000 in assessments that we would not assess if we make the changes proposed.
Yeah, thank you. That was what I just found it. That's on 52-20C3 about we will still continue to assess for laterals, which was what we discussed in our last meeting. Because those are the responsibility of the property owner. From my perspective, this captures what, setting aside a couple of minor tweaks we've talked about here, what we talked about last month. So I'm really happy with this. So thank you for the work that you and staff have put into this. Or Tim. I should. Yeah, I know. You did such a good Tim. I thought you were Tim. Other comments or suggestions? Okay. So I think we want to, I guess I will, is it a motion to postpone? Since we're going to make some adjustments? Okay. Do we, I guess what's the board's pleasure? Do you want to approve pending those minor adjustments from legal, or is this something that you would like to see brought back?
I think I'd like to see it brought back.
I'm just going to say, I was going to ask Mr. Gary what his thoughts were on that.
if it's not a time-sensitive issue, my preference is always to wait and bring it back, and you guys have the actual ordinance in front of you.
So here's what I would suggest for the board, that continue reading through it. If you do think of something, or you do have a constituent who reaches out to you, they have questions, then you have time to, send it over to staff, and Eileen can, coordinate. Is that okay? With Tim? Since you're not Tim, I won't say Chris. Okay, does that work for, okay, so I'll make a motion then to postpone this until staff is ready to bring it back to us for approval.
Second.
Any discussion or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep you here for that. But thank you for bringing it, because you're right, it was very dark, and it was hard.
Good way to get people here for the meetings.
Yeah, take their stuff. I think that's what we were trying to correct just now. All right, staff reports. Item 1, April financial report. Any questions for Eileen, or Eileen, anything we want to highlight? It's pretty early in the year.
Yep, I have one,
Your finger's on the button.
of course, right? Actually, it's just
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look. Let me see if I can get the answer for you while you guys are still in the report section.
That's okay. If it doesn't work, that's fine. It's a good thing. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. It's a lot of revenue that came in.
That could be. I'm just looking, I'm trying to remember how things are categorized. I actually think that's the interest earnings. A huge chunk of that's going to be your interest earnings, because we're earning so much in interest rates right now. And then another portion is insurance dividends. We just got an insurance dividend that was, I want to say, somewhere between $9,000 and $12,000. So, yeah.
All right, item 2, municipal court, April 2024. Any questions on that? Besides 40's usual comment.
More money comes in, it goes out.
Yeah, okay. All right. Committee reports, Airport Advisory Committee minutes from March 11th. Jim, anything you want to?
No, just, excuse me. Thank you. We did not meet in April, so these would have been the last approved minutes that we had. We did meet last week, but those obviously haven't been approved yet.
I'm glad to see the cameras are installed. That's good. And the continued updates to the FBO. I got to get out there and take a look at that.
Yeah, the painting looks nice, too.
I hear some people in this room help pick the color.
I have a question in regard, of course. The question under citizen participation with the meeting, Mr. Tabor questioned the frequency of having fire inspections, and he opined that once per year should be adequate. But my opinion was, and from reading this and knowing our fire chief and Doug and everybody that's working out there, I thought that should really be left up to the fire chief or the airport manager / fire chief.
That was the response, is it's up to the fire chief.
And in fact, they are doing some training next month at the airport again, the fire department.
Okay, item 2, draft plan commission minutes from May 13th. Any questions for 40? It was a pretty uneventful meeting, so there's not much really to, one of the things we approved.
The food truck item, though, is probably going to be brought back for more discussion, though, is it?
Yeah, and I think, though, when we look at the items that are recommendations for future agendas, polystructures is kind of probably the number one, followed by shipping containers. Those two will probably consume most of our time over the next few. I did want to highlight just, that was our first meeting with FOTH. So Oren, and I cannot remember Oren's last name. Sumwalt. Yeah. Oh, there you go. that was his first meeting, and he did a very, very nice job. We had Tim remote in case there was anything he needed to chime in on, so I think it went well. Had a chance to chat with Foth before the meeting and just kind of set, this is how we do things, and seemed pretty good, and I think they'll give us a lot of experience for, what they see at other municipalities as well.
Yeah, I liked his comment about the local brick and mortar businesses. I'm not a huge fan of the food trucks, so I'd rather have the local businesses provide the food, so I like that.
Just for information purposes, though, just so you folks understand, it was one of those things where some businesses in the village would request that a food truck would be there. Am I right or am I wrong, Eileen?
There's only been one business owner I know that has made this request. And my comment at the Plan Commission meeting was they were not at the meeting, so I'm not sure that should really be a priority. If we don't have a lot of interest in that and the concern with the brick and mortar businesses, so.
I tend to agree. The only thing I don't want to do is slam the door, though, if businesses are requesting that food trucks come in. That's all.
I also want to be clear that it's not about food trucks operating during like a special event. This is like on a regular basis type thing, because we do have food trucks that operate for special events. Okay, anything else on Plan Commission? All right, item 3, library board minutes from April 9th. Mary, anything there you want to talk about?
The new children's librarian is very active getting some new programs started, trying to see what's going to work, what isn't. June 8th is a date that we have set for Nancy's Nook dedication, 11 o'clock in the morning. So if anyone's available, just remember everything that Nancy contributed and there's some things that have been put in. And many thanks to Jason and you guys for helping out for getting ready for that.
And that event's at the library?
At the library, yes. And the Friends purchased some new furniture for the basement. Questions?
I did get an update from Mark Liberta that the Tri-Troy stuff is moving forward with the county. So the executive committee, and then the next step would be go to the Wisconsin Counties Association, as we talked about.
Good news.
If board members do plan to attend on that June 8th, let Lori or I know, because we need to know if we should be posting a quorum notice for that.
I already did.
Okay.
I was going to say, just go ahead.
Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Alexander.
Yes.
Trustee Holm.
Yes.
Trustee Nugent.
Yes.
Trustee Menucci. Alexander.
Yes.
Trustee Holm.
Yes.
Trustee Nugent.
Yes.
Trustee Menucci.
Yes.
Trustee Smalley. Trustee Wisniewski. Yes. Thank you.